disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. So there's this lady, Letitia Jones, who's the New York Attorney General. She is the one that is going after Trump with vengeance on financial fraud. This is the big lawsuit case that everyone's talking about the excessive bailing that Donald Trump has to face, and the whole, again, all these litigations, all these trials, all this prosecution is, again, a just manufactured process in order to try to eradicate Trump from being president again. These are vindictive attacks to put a vendetta on Donald Trump. Surprisingly, right at the 2024 election process, because, you know, we could have charged him way in advance. We could have actually prosecuted him way beforehand. But no, they took this time because, again, this is trying to silence out political opponents. And it's amazing that Letitia Jones, who's trying to prosecute Donald Trump on fraud, turns out to be a fraudster herself. And every time that people go full vengeance on a character like Donald Trump, and I'm not a fan of the Trumpster either, but it's amazing to witness the people that go full vengeance against a character like Donald Trump reveal their inner demons within themselves. That the people that they, you know, think that Donald Trump is this crazed maniac and vindictive and vengeful and will silence out his political opponents. Well, that's what they're doing right now. That's what they're doing right now. So Donald Trump is revering those personas out of people. And it's making us realize who these people really are. So here's a video here of Letitia Jones. And again, the most hilarious part is that she is supposed to prosecute Donald Trump for fraud, for financial fraud. And here's the vast many times that she is a fraudster herself and openly exposing her hypocrisy in the open. Watch this.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Over the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
So there you go. By the way, too male, too pale, too stale. I think those are the exact words I described McDonald's French fry on a Yelp review. Or my, high school teacher's garage band. I think they opened for a couple of venues around town here. Wow. Again, these are amazing moments. These are amazing moments. It's amazing how Trump, a character like Trump, and again, I'm stating this again, just to reiterate, I am no fan of the Trumpster myself, but it's amazing that a game show host who became president because the establishment is so messed up and so diluted with corruption and chaos that the entire population wants to throw a wrench into the establishment to stop it from further oppression, has unmasked itself. It's amazing that Donald Trump unmasked the true evil that goes along with the establishment. And that is that's one of the things that I have always, throughout the Trump presidency, throughout, since 2016, since the start of this show, since the start of this channel, I've been focused more on what got us to Donald Trump and not the Donald Trump persona that he has always personified himself with. Donald Trump has always been the same person, whether he was on television, whether he's doing real estate orders, or whether he's becoming president. He's always the same person. But because Donald Trump became president and exposed the establishment for the corrosive garbage that it is, now they hate him. They hate him so much that they have to have this wacko job, this pathetic, sociopathic liar, do a vendetta hit on him. And it's exactly what it is. It's a political hit job. So every time that Trump said that this is a witch hunt, it is a witch hunt. Because the same prosecutions they don't do for any other candidate. They don't do for any other person except for him. Except for him. And they're trying to vilify him for financial fraud. Do you know how many corporations we could be investigating on the same litigation of financial fraud that Donald Trump has committed? Do you realize how many people we could be investigating and also putting them under the law for the same exact motion that Donald Trump has committed? You see how this is exactly a political hit job. Everything that they said about Donald Trump and how he's going to vilify the nation and he's going to attack opponents that are against him and he's going to cause chaos and havoc and mayhem all over the place. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing to try to go after one specific person. So here's again, just to reiterate, Letitia James in the crusade against Trump because of how much of a racist, sexist, evil, moron that he is. Just know this is Letitia James in action to go after Donald Trump.
Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, too stale.
So that's her bringing sexism, racism, and I'm assuming because of stale, that's kind of ageist. So it's amazing that you're using 3 things that you're accusing Donald Trump of being to go after a character like Donald Trump. Again, do you see how hypocritical this all is? Do you see how this is all a goddamn game? This is all a goddamn illusion. And you got people like her chanting, lock him up, that he is a traitor, he is a villain, he is a Putin puppet, he is evil, he is destroying America, in the process of them destroying America to vilify it against Trump. Do you see how ridiculous this is? And they do this purposely. They do this purposely. And did Donald Trump govern any different than the rest of the establishment? Not really. Not really. At first, he didn't want to send the weapons off to Ukraine. That was one of the indictments they were trying to charge him with because he didn't want to aid a bunch of Ukrainian Nazis to start a war. And eventually, he'd send rockets into Syria, and they call him presidential. And then he also gave tax breaks to Wall Street. He did all the stuff that they wanted him to do. They did all the stuff. Donald Trump did all the stuff that the rest of the establishment was going to do anyway. So them trying to vilify him as some sort of traitor to the country is ridiculous. And the only reason they're doing it is because he's a wild card. He's able to say and do things that most presidents have never done in their lifetime, like openly admit that we're in Syria for the oil, or how we were going to topple Venezuela and install a dictatorship so we could take their oil. Most people say it's for humanitarian causes, or we care about them, or we care about bringing democracy, that kind of bullshit. Donald Trump just says in the open, no, we're there for the oil. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. We're overthrowing countries to take their resources. That is how America works. And that is something that she can't handle. And that is why she has to be openly racist, bigoted, ageist, and sexist. All in just one chant. All in one chant. And even the white people in the crowd are like cringing. They're cringing a smile. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. The guy in the glasses in the far corner there. Like, you could tell that's a cringe smile. Like, oh, yeah, I want to do this too, but, I'm right here. Unbelievable. So here is also something to point out. Here's Vivek Ramaswamy, the used car salesman of the GOP, because he does say the right things, and he's about to say something right on here. But he's part of the establishment. He's that kind of sleazy car salesman type of politics. But he brings up this great point. He says the Eighth Amendment was designed to protect against excessive fines or bail imposed to achieve unjust ends. Letitia James' crusade against Trump fits to that to a T. She should be disbarred. And listen to what he says here.
The Letitia James crusade against Donald Trump is disgusting and is a threat to every American. When you have prosecutors who are elected to office on a promise of going after one particular individual as she campaigned on, then go on to keep a campaign promise using the legal system to do it, it's unjust. And this particular case reveals how ugly that is. In this case, you're talking about a crime for which there was literally no identifiable victim. The people who did business with Donald Trump weren't individual consumers. They were sophisticated financial institutions who made money from their dealings. And yet Letitia James is using a consumer protection statute to literally make up numbers and say, hey, you have hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties that you owe. You have bond to post by a particular date of an unreasonable magnitude that even no billionaire is regularly able to meet. And to say, if you don't do it, I'm going to start seizing your property. It's disgusting, and it is a threat to not only private property, but threat to the justice system and to the rights of every American. But the good news is there is an argument to push back against this in short order. And that's the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment prevents the imposition of excessive bail or excessive fines. And if there's ever an example that meets that to a T, it's the bond that's been demanded of Donald Trump in this disgusting New York Letitia James-led prosecution. This is an opportunity for the Supreme Court to step in and say, no, we're not going to stand for this kind of lawfare. Whether it's against Donald Trump or a Democrat, it's wrong. We don't want to empower prosecutors to be able to use bond and bail or bonds as a way of effectively achieving a goal that they couldn't achieve through the front door, which is bankrupting an opponent, even stopping them from being able to appeal those decisions. That's un-American. It needs to end now, not just for the protection of Donald Trump, but for the protection of every American. And in this disaster, I at least see a silver lining of some hope that that's exactly what we'll get from the Supreme Court. It's not just the current justices, not even the conservative ones, that would necessarily agree with this principle. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a staunch defender of this part of the Eighth Amendment as well. She's no longer with us, but the other justices are. And I hope this can be another 9-0 rebuke of the kind of lawfare that we're seeing against Donald Trump and indirectly against every American in this country today. And I think it could be the most important Eighth Amendment case of the 21st century. I hope they bring it, and I hope they succeed.
So it sounds like this is going to be another 9-0 case. It sounds like, and again, this is proven time and time again. Every time they try to prosecute Trump, it builds up his popularity. Every time they try to indict him, they try to prosecute him, they raid Mar-a-Lago, they raid his private estates. Anything that they try to do to stop him is making him popular. So, them trying to do this is actually hurting themselves. Letitia James doing this vitriol crusade by undermining the law, undermining the amendments, undermining the protections of everyday Americans to have this villainous hatred against Trump is hurting herself. It's hurting herself. It's hurting New York. It's hurting the entire Justice Department. It's hurting the entire establishment. It's so hilarious. It's so hilarious that they're dead set on trying to silence out their political opponent, which is Donald Trump. that they are willing to dogpile themselves and beat up themselves and expose themselves for lying psychopathic hypocrites that they are in order to do so. And let's not forget that the crime that Trump has committed that started this whole thing is that he inflated his numbers when he did business practices. Which again, you look at any other person, you could charge them for the same thing. But why directly at Trump? Why directly at Trump that most millionaires, billionaires, real estate tycoons, investors, stockholders, Wall Street, any business participant has done in a lifetime? And the people that supposedly got frauded by Trump are willing to do more businesses with Trump. They want to do more business dealings with him. So again, this is a victimless crime that they're trying to prosecute Trump for to make it a political hit job. And it happens to be right around the time of 2024, the election season. And this is them trying to go after the political opponents that they said Trump was going to do in his presidency. That they keep trying to remind us that if we elect this guy, you're not allowed to have political opponents. You're not allowed to have an opposing voice. We don't have that now. We don't have that right now. They're trying to silence the opposing voices right now under Joe Biden's administration. And even the sleazy car salesman makes an excellent point that this is going to be the trial that really exposes, do we actually care about principles? Do we care about amendments? Do we care about the rights and virtues of America? Or are we just so backwards, crazy, evil villains inside that all legal justice is just a joke and we just go after anybody? That's what I said about, freedom of speech. Because there's so many people out there that want to silence out certain people because of their disgusting views, or they don't agree with that person. And I said from the start that you have to support freedom of speech as a principle across the board. You don't have to like the person, you don't have to agree with what they're saying, but you have to accept and acknowledge their right that they have an opinion that may be different from yours, and you have to defend their different opinion. Because if everyone agrees the same thing, there's no reason to defend it. But it's defending the opposing views. It's defending the people that differ from you. That's why the First Amendment is a principle stance. It's not something you can, Swiss hole and try to pick and choose different people who is allowed to speak and who doesn't. Just like with this. This is clearly a political witch hunt attack on Donald Trump to silence him out right before the election. And it's amazing that the more they do this, it's hurting themselves. It's jabbing them right in the face. Because every time they do this, Donald Trump becomes more popular with people. I guess they'll never learn their lesson.